The glass shattered before I heard the gunshot. I was wiping down the mahogany bar at Vespers, watching amber liquid pool across the wood like spilled honey, when the front window exploded inward. The jazz quartet stopped mid-note. Someone screamed. My body moved on instinct, dropping below the counter as more shots punched through the air, deliberate, calculated, not the wild spray of amateurs. My heart slammed against my ribs. The smell of gunpowder mixed with expensive cologne, and the sweet rot of fear sweat. Nobody fucking move. The voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk. Deep, controlled, familiar in a way that made my stomach twist even though I'd never heard it before. I pressed my spine against the lower cabinets, glass crunching under my knees, and tried to remember how to breathe. Through the gap between bottles, I could see polished black shoes moving across the floor. 3 sets, maybe 4. The kind of shoes that cost more than my monthly rent. We're looking for someone, the voice continued. Closer now. Young woman, late 20s, dark hair, works here. My blood went cold. The owner, Marcus, stammered something about employee privacy and labor laws. I heard the wet sound of impact, then his body hitting the floor. Let me rephrase. The voice hadn't changed pitch, but something in it made my skin prickle. Where is Elena Voss? I stopped breathing entirely. They knew my name. These men with their expensive shoes and casual violence knew exactly who I was. I'd been a bartender at Vespers for 3 years. I mixed drinks, smiled politely, memorized regulars' orders, and went home alone to my studio apartment in Bed-Stuy. I didn't have enemies. I didn't have secrets. The most dangerous thing I'd done recently was argue with my landlord about the broken radiator. So why were armed men looking for me? The storage room, someone whispered. I recognized Tasha's voice, thin with terror. She went to get more bitters. Through the back, footsteps moved toward the hallway that led to the storeroom and kitchen. My pulse thundered in my ears. The storeroom had one exit, the loading dock, that opened onto an alley that dead-ended at a brick wall. I'd used it 100 times for cigarette breaks I didn't actually take, just to escape the noise and touch cool night air. There was no escape that way. I shifted slightly, muscles cramping, and my elbow knocked against a bottle. The sound was small, just glass against glass, but in the terrible silence, it echoed like a bell. The footsteps stopped. Check behind the bar. I closed my eyes, pressed my palm against my mouth to muffle my breathing. The cabinet smelled like lemon oil and old wood. My uniform, black pants, white shirt, stupid clip-on bow tie was soaked with sweat. The footsteps approached, stopped directly on the other side of the counter. I was going to die on my knees in broken glass, and I didn't even know why. Then sirens. Distant but growing closer. Multiple vehicles. The kind of response that meant someone had called 911 before the music stopped. A pause. Muttered curses in what might have been Italian or Russian. Then that voice again, sharp with command. Move. Now. The expensive shoes retreated. I heard the back door crash open, then silence, except for distant crying and the approaching sirens. I stayed frozen behind the bar for another 30 seconds. My legs had gone numb. When I finally convinced myself to move, I had to pull glass fragments from my knees. Blood spotted my pants, small wounds, nothing serious, but my hands shook so badly I could barely stand. Elena? Marcus's voice, thick and pained. Jesus Christ, are you hurt? I emerged from behind the bar like something crawling from a grave. The club looked like a war zone, overturned tables, shattered glass everywhere. The beautiful stained glass window that had given Vespers its name now, just jagged teeth around an empty frame. The quartet's piano had bullet holes in it. Marcus held a bar towel to his bleeding nose. Tasha sat on the floor, mascara streaking her face. The customers, maybe 20 people who'd come for Thursday jazz night, were clustered near the walls, shell-shocked. I don't understand, I whispered. Why were they looking for me? Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it as police flooded through the shattered window. The next 2 hours blurred together. Questions I couldn't answer, statements I couldn't give, a detective with kind eyes and coffee breath asking if I had enemies, ex-boyfriends with criminal records, gambling debts, drug connections. No. I was nobody. I served drinks. I went home. I read books and watched cooking shows and lived the quietest life imaginable. Someone thinks you saw something, the detective finally said. Or heard something. Or you have something they want. But I didn't. They kept me until almost 2 a.m, then released me with a card and instructions to call if I remembered anything else. A patrol car offered to drive me home. I accepted because the alternative was the subway, and I couldn't stop shaking. My apartment building looked the same as always. Brick facade tagged with graffiti, broken intercom, the smell of someone cooking curry on the 3rd floor. The patrol officer waited until I was inside before driving away. I climbed 4 flights of stairs on legs that felt like water, fumbled with my keys. The hallway fluorescent buzzed and flickered, casting seizure-inducing shadows. I got my door open and stepped inside, reaching for the light switch, and a hand clamped over my mouth. I tried to scream, but the sound died against a palm that smelled like mint and gunpowder. An arm wrapped around my waist, iron hard, lifting me off my feet as the door clicked shut behind us. "Don't," that voice said directly into my ear. The same voice from the club. "Don't scream, don't fight, don't run. I'm not here to hurt you." I bit his hand. He didn't even flinch, just tightened his grip and carried me deeper into my own apartment. My living room was dark except for the streetlight filtering through thin curtains. He deposited me on my second-hand couch and stepped back, but stayed between me and the door. "Light," he said. My fingers found the table lamp. Clicked it on. The man standing in my living room looked nothing like I'd imagined. I'd pictured someone older, scarred, obviously violent. Instead, I saw someone, maybe 35, with dark hair that fell slightly over his forehead and a face that belonged on Mediterranean billboards. Sharp jaw, straight nose, eyes the color of smoke, watching me with an intensity that made my skin burn. He wore a 3-piece suit, charcoal gray, with blood not his on the white cuffs. The kind of face that made women stupid. The kind of body that moved like violence was a second language. "My name is Dante Rossi," he said. "And as of tonight, Elena, you're mine." I laughed. It was the wrong response. I knew it was the wrong response the moment the sound left my throat, but fear and exhaustion had stripped away my filter. The laugh came out high and slightly hysterical. "I'm what?" Dante Rossi didn't move, didn't smile, just watched me with those smoke-colored eyes like I was a problem he was calculating how to solve. "You witnessed something 3 nights ago," he said. "You don't remember it, but they think you do, which means they'll keep coming until they're certain you can't talk." My laugh died. "I don't know what you're talking about." Tuesday night. Around 11. A man came into Vespers, sat at the end of the bar. Ordered Macallan, neat. You served him. I served 50 people a night. How was I supposed to? Wait. Tuesday. Late shift. Slow night because of the rain. And yes, there'd been a man at the end of the bar. Middle-aged, expensive watch, face I'd forgotten the moment he left. He sat there for 20 minutes, Dante continued. Then someone else arrived. They spoke. "You were close enough to hear." I shook my head. "I don't remember any conversation. They killed him yesterday morning. Threw his body in the East River with his tongue cut out." Dante tilted his head slightly. The tongue was a message. For anyone who might have heard what he said, the room tilted. I gripped the couch arm to steady myself. "I didn't hear anything," I whispered. "I don't know anything." "I believe you." He said it so simply, like it was fact. But they don't. And even if they did, you're still a liability. The smart play is to eliminate you anyway. Tears burned behind my eyes. "Then why are you here? Did they send you to—" "I'm here because I'm not letting them have you." The words hit like a slap. I stared at him, searching for the lie, the angle, the reason a man who looked like expensive sin would care whether I lived or died. "Why?" My voice cracked. "You don't know me." Something flickered across his face too fast to read. "I know enough." He moved then, crossing to my tiny kitchen like he owned it. Opened cabinets until he found a glass, filled it with water from the tap and brought it to me. The gesture was so incongruously domestic that I almost laughed again. I took the water. Didn't drink it. "This is insane," I said. "I should call the police. I should." "The police can't protect you from the Volkov Bratva." The name meant nothing to me. Dante must have seen it in my face because he continued, his voice taking on the cadence of someone explaining mathematics to a child. "Alexei Volkov runs most of the heroin distribution in Brooklyn. The man you served on Tuesday was one of his lieutenants. He was planning to testify against Alexei in exchange for witness protection. The conversation you don't remember hearing was him finalizing details with a federal agent." My mouth went dry. "If they even suspect you overheard anything, a name, a date, a location, you're dead." He crouched in front of me, bringing those unsettling eyes level with mine. "And they suspect. So what am I supposed to do?" The question came out sharp, edged with the anger that was finally breaking through the shock. "Let you protect me? I don't know you. You could be lying. I could be a lot of things. His voice dropped lower. But right now, I'm the only reason you're not bleeding out in your bathtub. I flinched. He stood, moved to my window, and looked out at the street. They'll come again. Tonight, tomorrow, next week. They're not subtle people, Elena. They'll burn down your entire building if they have to. Then I'll run. I'll leave the city. They'll find you. He didn't turn around. They found my sister in Vancouver when she tried to run. Took them 6 days. The way he said found made my stomach clench. What happened to her? I happened to them. Now he did turn, and something in his face made me believe every word. All of them. It took me 3 months, but I made sure none of them could hurt anyone again. The apartment felt too small suddenly. This man, this beautiful, terrifying man, was talking about murder like it was pest control. I don't want this, I whispered. I know. And he sounded almost sorry. But it's what you have. He moved toward the door. For one wild moment, I thought he was leaving, and I didn't know if I felt relieved or abandoned. But he just turned the deadbolt, tested the lock, checked the hinges with professional efficiency. Pack a bag, he said. 1 minute. Essentials only. I'm not going anywhere with you. Yes, you are. He checked his watch, something platinum and complicated. In approximately 4 minutes, a black SUV is going to park across the street. 3 men will get out. They'll bypass your building's security, which doesn't exist, and they'll kick in your door. If you're lucky, they'll kill you quickly. My heart hammered against my ribs. You can't just... I can. He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw something beneath the cold control. Something that might have been human once. I'm taking you whether you agree or not. You can walk out of here conscious and relatively calm, or I can carry you. Your choice. I believed him. God help me. I believed every word. I stood on shaking legs and went to my bedroom. Grabbed my battered backpack. Threw in clothes without looking underwear. Jeans, sweaters. My phone charger. The silver bracelet my grandmother left me. A photo of my parents. When I came back out, Dante was at the window again. They're early, he said calmly. We're leaving through the fire escape. There's no fire escape on this side. He was already opening my window, pushing up the old wood with effortless strength. Cold November air rushed in. He climbed out, then extended a hand. I stared at it. At him. At the drop beyond the window that probably ended in the alley where they found rats the size of small dogs. Behind me, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, multiple sets. Dante's hand didn't waver. Trust me, I didn't. But I took his hand anyway. His grip was warm, steady, impossibly strong. He pulled me through the window and onto a metal platform I hadn't known existed. The city spread out below us, lights and shadows, and millions of people who had no idea what was happening in this forgotten corner of Brooklyn. Down, Dante murmured, fast and quiet. We descended as someone started pounding on my door. My hands were slick with sweat. My feet kept slipping on the metal rungs. Behind and above us, I heard wood splintering. We hit the alley. Dante's hand wrapped around my wrist. And then we were running. I'd been a bartender yesterday, worried about tips and Netflix, and whether I could afford to visit my parents for Christmas. Now I was running through back alleys with a man who killed people, while other men who wanted to kill me searched my apartment for a conversation I couldn't remember. Dante pulled me around a corner, into deeper shadows, and his other hand came up to cover my mouth again. Breathe, he whispered against my ear. Slow. In through your nose. You're going into shock. He was right. The edges of my vision were going dark. My legs felt like someone had filled them with sand. I've got you, he said. And despite everything, despite the insanity and terror and complete destruction of my entire life, I felt myself believing him. Stay close to me, Elena. I won't let them touch you. Above us, flashlight beams swept across the fire escape we'd just abandoned. The car was waiting 3 blocks away, a black Mercedes with tinted windows and an engine that purred like a satisfied cat. Dante opened the back door and guided me inside with a hand at the small of my back. Professional, impersonal, like I was luggage. A driver sat behind the wheel. He didn't turn around, didn't speak, just pulled into traffic the moment Dante shut the door. I pressed myself into the corner of the leather seat, as far from Dante as the space allowed. My backpack sat on my lap like a shield. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Dante pulled out his phone, fingers moving across the screen with practiced ease. Somewhere they won't find you. And then what? I just live there? Forever? He glanced up. Even in the dim interior, his eyes caught the passing streetlights. Until I deal with the Volkov problem. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Deal with it how? His smile was a blade. How do you think? I looked away, out the window. We were heading toward Manhattan, crossing the bridge as the city skyline cut geometric shapes against the purple-black sky. I should have felt something: fear, anger, resignation. Instead, I just felt numb. Did you know? The question came out small. About the conversation. What that man said to the federal agent. No. But you knew enough to find me. I know how Alexei thinks. I know the kind of loose ends he ties off. Dante pocketed his phone. When I heard about the shooting at Vespers, I knew you were the target. Process of elimination. You say that like it's simple. It is simple. You were there. You might have heard something. Therefore, you die. He said it so matter-of-factly, like he was explaining math. Alexei doesn't deal in probabilities. He deals in certainties. The car turned onto an empty side street, then down into an underground parking garage. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead as we descended into the earth. The driver parked in a space marked private, killed the engine, and finally spoke. All clear, boss. Boss. The words settled over me like ice water. I'd known Dante was involved in something criminal. You don't talk casually about killing people unless violence is your native language. But hearing someone call him bosses made it real in a way nothing else had. Who are you? I asked as we exited the car. Really? Dante adjusted his cuffs, the ones with someone else's blood on them. Does it matter? Yes. He studied me for a long moment. Then, the Rossi family controls most of the legitimate and semi-legitimate business interests in Lower Manhattan. Import, export, real estate, construction. We maintain certain understandings. With law enforcement and political figures. Your mafia. We prefer established business network. The corner of his mouth lifted. But yes, mafia. He said it like he was announcing he worked in accounting. We took a private elevator. It opened directly into a penthouse apartment that probably cost more than I'd earn in my lifetime. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the East River. Modern furniture in blacks and grays. Art on the walls that looked either priceless or criminally ugly. I couldn't tell which. You'll stay here, Dante said, moving through the space with the ease of ownership. Don't go near the windows. Don't make phone calls. Don't contact anyone from your previous life. My parents will be told you're taking an unexpected vacation. Traveling, finding yourself. Whatever story keeps them from worrying and coming to look for you. He opened a door off the main living area. Bedroom. Bathrooms through there. Everything you need is stocked. I peered into the room. King-size bed. More windows. A bathroom with marble surfaces and fixtures that gleamed like jewelry. Whose place is this? Mine. That made me turn. You're staying here? With me? Until I'm certain you're secure. Yes. He loosened his tie with one hand. A gesture so casual it made something flip in my stomach. I have business to handle during the day, but nights, I'll be here. The implications of that settled between us like smoke. This beautiful, dangerous man. Me. Alone in an apartment for weeks. I want my own room, I said quickly. And a lock on the door. Done. He gestured to the kitchen. There's food in the fridge, liquor in the cabinet if you need it, books in the study. I'll have clothes delivered tomorrow. You can't keep wearing the same 3 outfits. He was already moving toward the door. Wait. I don't know what made me say it. You never answered my question. Why are you doing this? Why risk yourself for someone you don't know? Dante stopped with his hand on the doorknob. His shoulders tensed beneath the expensive suit. I told you. I had a sister. Had? The word hung in the air like a ghost. She was a bartender too, he said quietly. In Staten Island. Wrong place, wrong time. She saw something she shouldn't have. Different organization, different circumstances, but the same result. My throat tightened. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. He turned then, and something in his face made him look older, harder. Just stay alive. That's all I need from you, Elena. Stay alive and let me do my job. He left before I could respond. The door clicked shut, and I was alone in a penthouse that cost more per month than I made in a year, wearing day-old clothes that smelled like fear and broken glass. I walked to the window despite his warning. The city spread out below millions of lights, millions of lives, all of them continuing while mine had shattered into something unrecognizable. What had I heard on Tuesday? I pressed my hands against the cold glass and tried to remember. The man at the end of the bar. Middle-aged. Forgettable. He'd ordered Macallan. Neat. Then someone else arrived, younger. Nervous. Wearing a cheap suit. They'd spoken quietly. I'd been wiping glasses, half listening to the jazz quartet. What had they said? Thursday. The warehouse on Pearl. 3 witnesses. But only one that matters. Alexei will never see it coming. I'd thought they were talking about business. A meeting. A deal. The kind of conversation that happened in bars every night. But they'd been talking about testimony, about taking down a crime lord, about the kind of secrets that got people killed, and I'd been close enough to hear every word. My reflection stared back at me from the window, small, ordinary, forgettable Elena Voss, who'd never done anything remarkable in her entire life, whose biggest rebellion was skipping church on Sundays, who'd never even gotten a speeding ticket. Now, I was a loose end, a liability, a target. I turned away from the window and explored my prison. The bedroom was bigger than my entire studio apartment. The bathroom had a shower with 6 different heads and water pressure that could probably strip paint. The bed was obscenely comfortable. I sat on the edge of it, still wearing my coat, still clutching my backpack. Somewhere in this city, men were planning how to kill me, and the only thing standing between them and success was a mafia boss who looked like sin and talked about murder the way other people discussed the weather. I should have been terrified, but as I lay back on sheets that probably cost more than my monthly rent, I realized I felt something else entirely. Safe. God help me. I felt safe for the first time since the glass shattered, and that terrified me more than anything else. I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone moving through the apartment. For one blessed moment, I forgot where I was. Thought maybe I was back in my studio, that the whole nightmare had been a fever dream brought on by bad takeout. Then I opened my eyes and saw marble and silk and floor-to-ceiling windows, and reality crashed back. I'd slept in my clothes. My mouth tasted like copper and fear. The bedside clock read 7:43 a.m. Weak November sunlight filtered through the windows, painting everything gold and gray. I sat up slowly, muscles protesting. My knees still hurt where I'd knelt on broken glass. When I emerged from the bedroom, I found Dante at the kitchen counter. He'd changed now, wearing dark jeans and a black sweater that did things to his shoulders that should have been illegal. His hair was damp. He looked younger in daylight, less like a movie villain, and more like someone who could have been a lawyer or architect in another life. He glanced up as I approached. "There's coffee, and breakfast if you want it." I poured coffee into a mug that probably cost more than my phone. Didn't speak. Didn't know what to say to the man who'd kidnapped me to save my life. "We need to establish rules," Dante said. He pushed a plate toward me, scrambled eggs, toast, fruit I couldn't afford on my salary. "For while you're here, rules." My voice came out rough. "You can't leave the apartment, not even to step outside the door." He counted on his fingers like he was giving a briefing. "No phone calls except on the burner I'll give you, and only to numbers I approve. No social media, no contact with anyone from your previous life. So I'm a prisoner. You're protected." His eyes met mine. "There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes." He sipped his own coffee black. "No sugar. A prisoner wants to leave. You want to stay alive." I hated that he was right. "How long?" I asked. "I told you. 2 weeks, maybe 3, until I neutralize the threat." "Neutralize." I laughed bitterly. "You mean kill." "I mean, remove the reason they want you dead." He set down his mug. "Alexei Volkov is planning something. A major shipment, probably. Something big enough that he's willing to eliminate anyone who might have overhead details. Once I disrupt that operation, you become irrelevant to him. And you can do that? Disrupt a major drug operation?" His smile was cold. "Elena, I can do things that would give you nightmares. Disrupting a shipment is Tuesday for me." The casual confidence should have scared me. Instead, it sent a strange heat through my chest. I forced myself to eat. The eggs were perfect, fluffy, seasoned, just right. "Do you always cook for your captives?" "Only the ones I'm trying to keep alive." He checked his watch. "I have meetings until late tonight. Don't answer the door for anyone. There's a panic button in every room, red, mounted next to the light switches. Press it if anything feels wrong." "What happens if I press it?" "Armed men arrive in under 3 minutes." Jesus Christ. Dante stood, grabbing a leather jacket from the back of a chair. "Read. Watch TV. The study has books. There's a laptop, it's clean. Can't be traced, but don't access your old accounts. What if I get bored?" He paused at the door. "Get creative." Then he was gone, and I was alone again. The first day crawled by like a wounded animal. I explored the apartment, found the study he'd mentioned, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with everything from philosophy to thrillers, a desk with a laptop and charging cables, windows that overlooked the river. I found the panic buttons. Tested one, just pressing it lightly, not hard enough to trigger it. Wondered what kind of armed men would arrive. How many? Whether they'd look like Dante, beautiful and brutal, or like something out of a gangster movie. I showered for 40 minutes, using products that smelled like bergamot and cedar. Found clothes in the bedroom closet, women's clothes, different sizes, like he'd prepared for this. The thought should have creeped me out. Instead, it made me wonder how many other women he'd hidden here. By afternoon, I was pacing. The apartment was huge by New York standards, probably 2,000 square feet, but it still felt like a cage. I tried reading, couldn't focus. Tried watching TV. Every noise made me jump. Tried cooking something from the obscenely well-stocked fridge, but I had no appetite. By 6 p.m., I was staring out the windows at the city lights flickering on across the river, wondering if my parents had called my apartment yet, if Marcus had closed Vespers or tried to reopen, if Tasha was okay, if anyone even noticed I was gone. The door opened at 9:47 p.m. I jumped, heart slamming into my throat, before I recognized Dante's silhouette. He looked tired, and there was blood on his knuckles. "You're hurt," I said before I could stop myself. He glanced at his hands like he'd forgotten about the blood. Not mine. I should have left it alone. Should have gone back to my bedroom and locked the door. Instead, I heard myself say, "Let me clean that." Dante's eyebrows rose slightly. "You don't have to." "I know." I moved to the kitchen, found the first aid kit under the sink because of course there was a first aid kit under the sink. "Sit." He sat. I took his hand. His skin was warm, the knuckles split and swollen. I cleaned the blood with antiseptic wipes, trying not to think about whose face he'd been hitting. His fingers twitched slightly when the antiseptic stung, but he didn't pull away. "You shouldn't have to see this," he said quietly. "See what? Blood? I'm a bartender. I've broken up my share of fights. It's not the same." "No." I wrapped gauze around his knuckles with hands that had finally stopped shaking. "It's not." We sat in silence. I finished bandaging his right hand, moved to the left. His gaze felt heavy on my face, but I didn't look up. "You could have run," Dante said finally. "While I was gone, you could have walked out, tried to disappear, and gotten shot in the street? Maybe, probably." He flexed his bandaged fingers. "But you didn't even try." "Should I have?" "I don't know." Something in his voice made me look up. His smoke-colored eyes were darker in the low light, studying me like I was a puzzle. "Most people would have." "I'm not most people." "No." His voice dropped lower. "You're not." The air between us felt suddenly thick. Charged. I became hyper-aware of how close we were sitting, his knee almost touching mine, my fingers still resting on his wrist. The scent of his cologne mixing with copper and antiseptic. I pulled back. "You should rest. Those need time to heal. They'll be fine by morning." He stood, shrugging out of his jacket. "Thank you, Elena." The way he said my name, soft, careful, like it was something precious, made warmth spread through my chest. "Why do you do it?" I asked. "The violence, the blood. You're clearly educated, intelligent. You could do anything. Why choose this?" Dante looked at me for a long moment. "Because the world is full of men like Alexei Volkov. Men who take and hurt and destroy without consequence. Someone has to stop them. You're not a hero." "No." His smile was sad. "But I'm the monster the other monsters fear. Sometimes that's enough." He left me standing in the kitchen, his words echoing in my head. I touched the spot on my wrist where his pulse had beaten against my fingers. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Then I could go back to my quiet, ordinary life. I should have been counting down the days. Instead, I was wondering what would happen when they ended. 3 days bled into 4, then 5. Dante left early each morning and returned late each night, sometimes with blood on his clothes, sometimes with bruises blooming across his jaw or ribs. He never explained, and I never asked, but I started waiting for him. I told myself it was because the apartment felt too empty, too silent, that I was just lonely and bored. But when I heard his key in the lock around 10 p.m. on the 5th night, my heart did something complicated in my chest. He looked worse than usual. A cut above his eyebrow, swelling along his cheekbone. His shirt was torn at the shoulder. "Jesus," I breathed. "What happened?" "Alexei's people are getting desperate." He shrugged out of his jacket with a wince. Found one of their middlemen. Had a conversation. A conversation that left you looking like you went through a meat grinder. You should see him. But there was no humor in his voice. I grabbed the first aid kit, our nightly ritual now, and gestured to the couch. Sit. This time, he didn't argue. I cleaned the cut above his eyebrow with gentle fingers. He sat very still, watching me with those unreadable eyes. His skin was warm under my touch. I could feel his pulse beating in his temple. You're getting good at this, he murmured. I've had practice. I dabbed antiseptic on the cut. He flinched. Sorry. Don't be. I've had worse. That's not reassuring. His mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Elena? Thank you. For this. For not making it harder than it has to be. I paused. Butterfly bandage halfway to his skin. What else would I do? Scream. Cry. Try to run. Hate me for trapping you here. His hand came up, catching my wrist. Not restraining, just touching. Most people would hate me. Do you want me to hate you? It would be easier. The words hung between us like smoke. His thumb traced small circles on the inside of my wrist, right over my pulse point. My breath caught. Easier for who? I whispered. Dante's eyes darkened. His grip tightened fractionally. Elena. The window exploded inward. I didn't have time to scream. Dante's body slammed into mine, taking us both to the floor as glass rained down. His weight pressed me into the carpet, his hand cradling my head, protecting me from the debris. Gunshots. 3. 4. Punching through the space where we'd been sitting, then silence. Dante lifted himself slightly, just enough to look at me. Are you hurt? I shook my head. Couldn't speak. My ears were ringing. He rolled off me, pulled a gun from somewhere at his back, when had he been carrying a gun, and moved toward the shattered window in a crouch. Stay down, he ordered. I pressed myself against the floor, heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Cold air poured through the broken window. Glass glittered everywhere like deadly snow. Dante looked out, gun raised, then cursed viciously in Italian. They're gone. Sniper, probably 2 buildings over. He turned back to me, and his face was carved from stone. We need to move. Now. But you said... I was wrong. He grabbed my arm, pulling me to my feet. Glass crunched under our shoes. They found you faster than I expected. We can't stay here. Where? Somewhere more secure. Somewhere they'd never think to look. He was already moving through the apartment, grabbing his jacket, a black bag I'd never seen before. Take only what you need. 30 seconds. I ran to the bedroom on shaking legs. Grabbed my backpack. My grandmother's bracelet. A sweater. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely close the zipper. When I came back out, Dante was at the door, gun still in hand. Stay behind me. Don't run. Don't make noise. His eyes met mine. And Elena, if I tell you to do something, you do it immediately. Understand? I nodded. We took the stairs instead of the elevator. 17 flights. My legs burned by the time we hit the parking garage. The Mercedes was gone instead. There was a nondescript Honda that looked like every other car in New York. Different vehicle every time, Dante explained as we got in. They were probably tracking the Mercedes. He drove like he did everything else with absolute control and zero hesitation. We wove through streets I didn't recognize, doubled back twice, went through a tunnel that took us to Queens. Where are we going? I finally asked. Somewhere Alexei would never look. 20 minutes later, we pulled up outside a small townhouse in Astoria. Narrow brick facade, window boxes with dead plants. Completely unremarkable. Dante killed the engine. My mother's house. I stared at him. Your mother's... She's in Italy for the winter. Has been for the past 3 years. This place sits empty, except for a cleaning service that comes once a month. He grabbed the black bag. No one in the organization knows about it. Not even my second. It's the safest place in the city. We entered through the back door. Inside, the house smelled like lavender and dust, furniture covered in white sheets. Photos on the walls of people I didn't know, but I recognized Dante in several of them. Younger, smiling in a way I'd never seen. The bedroom upstairs is yours, he said. I'll take the couch. Tomorrow I'll have security installed, nothing obvious, just precautions. I should have gone upstairs. Should have locked myself in the bedroom and tried to process what had just happened. Instead, I turned on him. They almost killed us. Yes. They shot through your window. Yes. What if they'd aimed better? What if... My voice cracked. You could have died, because of me. Dante set down the bag. moved toward me with that predatory grace. I wasn't going to let that happen. You can't know that. You can't. He cupped my face with both hands. The gesture was so unexpected, so gentle compared to everything else about him, that I froze. Listen to me, he said, voice low and intense. I have been protecting people from monsters my entire adult life. I have faced down Bratva enforcers, Yakuza assassins, cartel sicarios. I have walked into situations where I should have died a dozen different ways, and I'm still here. You know why? I shook my head mutely. Because I'm very, very good at keeping people alive when other people want them dead. His thumbs brushed my cheekbones. They're not going to touch you, Elena. Not while I'm breathing. Why do you even care? The question burst out of me. Your sister, I'm sorry about what happened to her. Truly. But I'm not her. I'm just some random bartender who heard something she shouldn't have. Why risk your life for that? Something flickered in his eyes. Something that looked almost like pain. Because you deserve to live, he said simply. Because you serve drinks and smile at strangers and live a quiet life. And men like Alexei don't get to take that away from you. Because if I let them win, if I let them kill one more innocent person, then I'm no better than they are. His hands were still on my face. I could feel his pulse in his fingertips. And because, he continued, voice dropping to almost a whisper, looking at you doesn't hurt. And not much in this world can claim that anymore. I stopped breathing. We stood there in his mother's dusty living room, surrounded by covered furniture and old photos, and something shifted between us like continental plates moving beneath the earth. Dante, I whispered. Go to bed, Elena. He dropped his hands, stepped back. Before I do something we'll both regret. I went, but I didn't sleep. I woke to the sound of Dante's voice. It was barely dawn gray, light filtering through unfamiliar curtains. I sat up in the bed that had once been his mother's, listening. He was in the kitchen below, speaking rapid Italian. His tone was sharp, controlled, but I caught the edge of violence underneath. I crept to the top of the stairs, still wearing the t-shirt and borrowed sweatpants I'd slept in. Don't care what it takes. Find where they're staging. I want locations, personnel, everything. A pause. No authorities. This is family business. Family business, the mafia kind. I should have gone back to bed, given him privacy. But instead, I descended the stairs slowly, avoiding the creaky third step. Dante stood at the kitchen counter, phone pressed to his ear, wearing only jeans and a white undershirt that revealed the full extent of the bruising across his ribs, mottled, purple, and yellow. It looked agonizing. His eyes flicked to me. He said something else in Italian, then ended the call. Sorry, I said. Didn't mean to interrupt. You didn't. He set the phone down. Coffee? It became our morning ritual, coffee in his mother's kitchen, while the city woke up around us. He made it strong, the Italian way. I drank it with too much milk, and he never commented. Do you always work this early? I asked. I don't really sleep anymore. He said it casually, like it was just a fact. Haven't in years. Since your sister? His jaw tightened. Among other things, I wanted to ask more. Wanted to understand the man who'd upended my entire life to save it. But his phone buzzed again, a text this time. He glanced at it, frowned. I need to go out for a few hours. Meeting with one of my informants. He drained his coffee. Don't open the door. Don't go outside. There's food in the fridge, books in the living room. Same rules as before. Dante. He paused, halfway to the stairs. Be careful, I finished. Something in his expression softened. Always am. He left. I spent the morning exploring the townhouse more thoroughly. Found photo albums in the living room, Dante as a child, gap-toothed and smiling. Dante as a teenager, already tall, already beautiful. Dante in his 20s with a girl who had his eyes and his smile. His sister. Had to be. I studied her face. She looked happy in these photos, alive in a way that people in pictures often aren't. I wondered if Dante had any photos of her anymore, or if they were all here in this house he never visited. By afternoon, I was restless. I did push-ups in the bedroom, organized the kitchen cabinets, reread the same page of a thriller 3 times without absorbing a word. Dante came back at 6, and I knew immediately something was wrong. He was too still, too controlled. The kind of stillness that preceded violence. What happened? I asked. I found where they're keeping the shipment. He moved to the kitchen, poured himself scotch from a bottle under the sink, drank it neat. Warehouse in Red Hook, heavily guarded. They're moving it tomorrow night. That's good news, right? You can disrupt it. Make me irrelevant to them. It's complicated. He poured more scotch. The shipment is bigger than I thought, and there's a federal task force planning to raid it the same night. If I move first, I compromise their operation. If I let them move first. He trailed off. I'm still a loose end. I finished. Yes. I joined him in the kitchen. So what do? I improvise. He looked at me then. Really looked. And something in his eyes made my stomach flip. Elena, if this goes wrong tomorrow, don't. I need you to know that my second in command, Marco, has instructions to get you out of the city. New identity, new life. He'll make sure. Dante, stop. I grabbed his wrist. Nothing's going wrong. You said you're good at this, so be good at it. I'm good at many things. I'm not good at guarantees. Then don't guarantee anything. I didn't know how to finish. Just come back. Just don't die. Just don't leave me alone in this house that smells like someone else's lavender. Just try. His free hand came up, tucking hair behind my ear. The gesture was so tender it made my chest ache. You've gotten under my skin, he said quietly. In the space of 6 days, you've made me care about coming home. That's dangerous, Elena. For both of us. I don't understand. Men like me don't get to keep things. His thumb traced my jawline. We're too close to the darkness. Eventually, it swallows everything we touch. I'm not asking you to keep me, aren't you? The question hung between us, and I realized with startling clarity that maybe I was. Maybe over coffee and first aid and quiet conversations in the dark, I'd started imagining a world where this wasn't temporary, where the danger passed and I didn't just go back to my studio apartment and my old life, where I stayed. I should go to bed, I whispered. You have a big day tomorrow. But I didn't move. And neither did he. His hand slid into my hair, cradling the back of my head. If I kissed you right now, would you stop me? My heart hammered against my ribs. I don't know. That's not a no. It's not a yes either. I'm aware. But he leaned closer anyway, his breath ghosting across my lips. Tell me to stop, Elena. Tell me this is wrong and stupid, and we both know better. It is wrong and stupid, and we both know better. I know. His forehead touched mine. But I'm going to kiss you anyway. And if you want me to stop, you need to say it now. I didn't say it. His mouth found mine soft at first, questioning. I answered by gripping his shirt, pulling him closer. He made a sound low in his throat, and the kiss deepened, turning hungry. He tasted like scotch, and danger, and bad decisions. His hands were in my hair, on my waist, burning through the thin fabric of my borrowed clothes. I'd been kissed before, clumsy fumbles after dates, drunken mistakes in college, but nothing like this. Nothing that felt like falling and flying at the same time. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. That was, I started. A mistake, he finished. But he didn't let go. Probably. Definitely. His thumb brushed my swollen lips. I'm going to get you killed if I'm not careful. You're literally keeping me alive, and becoming your biggest liability in the process. He stepped back, ran a hand through his hair. This can't happen again, Elena. Not until you're safe. Not until... I know. I did. I understood the logic, but it didn't stop the ache in my chest. Tomorrow night, he said. After I handle the warehouse. After you're not in danger anymore. Then we can... talk. About this. About what happens next. What if there is no next? His eyes went dark. There will be. I'll make sure of it. He left me standing in the kitchen, my lips still tingling, my heart doing acrobatics. Tomorrow night. One more day. Then either I'd be free, or I'd be dead. Or Dante would be the one who didn't come home. I touched my mouth where his had been. Please come home, I thought. Please don't make me figure out how to live in a world where you don't exist. But I didn't say it out loud. Some confessions were too dangerous, even in the darkness. Dante left at dusk. He wore all black tactical pants, long-sleeved shirt, boots designed for silence. His gun was holstered at his hip, and he carried a second black bag I'd learned not to ask about. Marco will be here in an hour, he said at the door. He's bringing dinner and staying until I get back. Don't argue. I wasn't going to. The idea of being alone in this house while Dante walked into a warehouse full of armed men made my stomach clench. Be smart, I said instead. Come back. He cupped my face with one hand, his new favorite gesture. Count on it. Then he was gone, and I was left with nothing but silence and terrible imagination. Marco arrived exactly 60 minutes later. He was shorter than Dante, stockier, with graying temples and kind eyes that didn't match his scarred knuckles. He brought Thai food and set it on the kitchen table like we were about to have a normal dinner. "Dante says you're handling this well," Marco said, serving pad thai onto paper plates. "I'm handling this terrified. That's handling it well." He pushed a plate toward me. "Most people fall apart. You're still functional. That counts for something." I picked at the noodles. "How long have you known him?" 15 years. Since he was barely more than a kid trying to prove himself to his father. Marco's expression softened. "He's a good man. Elena, I know what he does doesn't look like goodness, but he draws lines, has rules, won't cross certain boundaries, even when it would be easier." "Like what?" "Never hurts civilians, never touches kids, never lets his people traffic in anything that preys on the desperate. No hard drugs in poor neighborhoods, no prostitution, no loan sharking. The Rossi family has always been different that way." He met my eyes. "That's why other organizations hate him. He makes them look bad by comparison." I thought about Dante's hands, how gently they'd touched my face, how viciously they'd been split and bleeding. Two sides of the same person. "He told me about his sister," I said quietly. Marco's jaw tightened. "Lucia, that was her name. Sweet girl. Too sweet for this world." He set down his fork. "When they found her, Dante changed, became harder, colder, more efficient. He built walls so high even the people who loved him couldn't climb them. But he's protecting me. Why? What makes me different? You'll have to ask him that yourself." But Marco smiled slightly. "Though I have my theories." We ate in silence. I couldn't taste anything. Every minute felt like an hour. Around 9 p.m., Marco's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. "What?" I demanded. "Dante's going in. Federal task force just moved up their timeline. He has to move now or risk you staying exposed." My blood went cold. "Is that bad?" "It's not ideal," which meant yes. 10 p.m. came and went. 11, midnight. Marco made coffee. Checked his phone obsessively. Paced the living room with a gun I hadn't realized he was carrying. At 12:47 a.m., his phone rang. I watched his face as he answered, watched color drain from his cheeks. "Where?" he said. Then, "How bad?" Then, "I'm bringing her. Don't argue." He ended the call and looked at me. "We need to go. Now." "What happened? Is Dante?" "He's alive. Barely." Marco was already moving toward the door. There was a firefight. Volkov's people were waiting. "Dante's been shot twice. My men got him out. But he needs a hospital and refuses to go until he knows you're safe." The world tilted. "Shot twice? Elena, I need you to move. Right now." I grabbed my backpack on autopilot and followed him to the car. The drive took 15 minutes that felt like 15 hours. We pulled up to a warehouse in an industrial park I didn't recognize. Marco led me inside through a side door. The smell hit me first, blood and gunpowder and fierce sweat. Then I saw Dante. He was on the floor, propped against the wall, his black shirt soaked with blood. Too much blood. His face was paper white, lips tinged blue. A man I didn't know was pressing gauze against his side. Another wound bled sluggishly from his shoulder. "You brought her here?" Dante's voice was weak but furious. "I told you to keep her safe, not—" "Shut up," I said, dropping to my knees beside him. "Just shut up and let me see." The man with the gauze moved aside. I took over, pressing down hard. Dante hissed through his teeth. "You need a hospital," I said. My hands were shaking. "You're going to die if—" "Can't go to a hospital. They report gunshot wounds. Feds will arrest me before they stitch me up." He tried to smile. Failed. "Besides, looks worse than it is. You've been shot twice. Only once. The shoulder's a graze." He coughed, and blood flecked his lips. "The side is the problem." Marco was on his phone, speaking rapid Italian. Ordering something. A doctor, maybe, or a priest. I kept pressure on the wound, feeling Dante's blood seep between my fingers. He was so warm, too warm. "Why did you do this?" I asked. "Why risk yourself like this?" "Shipments destroyed. Volkov's operation is dead in the water. Federal task force has enough evidence to put him away for life." Each word seemed to cost him. "You're safe now. Elena, they have no reason to come after you. I don't care about being safe if you die." The words burst out before I could stop them. Tears streamed down my face. Do you hear me? I don't care. Not if this is the cost. Dante's hand came up, the one that wasn't pressed against his side, and touched my cheek. Worth it, he whispered. You're worth it. No, I'm not. I'm nobody. I'm just some bartender who… You're everything. His eyes were starting to unfocus. Made me remember what it felt like. To want someone safe. To want someone to come home to. Haven't felt that since. He trailed off. Dante. Stay awake. Please. So tired. No. Look at me. I gripped his face with my free hand, smearing blood across his cheekbone. You promised you'd come back. You promised we'd talk about what happens next, so stay awake and keep that promise. His eyes focused slightly. Bossy. Terrified. Don't be. His thumb traced my jaw. I'm very… hard to kill. Then his eyes rolled back, and he went limp in my arms. I screamed. The next hours were chaos. A doctor arrived, not from a hospital. Someone Marco called from God knows where. They moved Dante to a table, cut away his shirt. There was so much blood. I stood in the corner and watched them work. Watched them pull the bullet from his side. Watched them clean and stitch and bandage. Watched the doctor shake his head and say words like blood loss and internal bleeding and touch and go. Marco stood beside me. He's survived worse. Has he? Yes. But Marco's voice wasn't certain. Dawn broke. Weak light filtered through dirty warehouse windows. The doctor finished, gave Marco instructions, left. Dante lay on the table, chest rising and falling shallowly. Still unconscious. Still so pale he looked like a corpse. I pulled a chair beside him. Took his hand, the one without the IV. You're not allowed to die, I whispered. Do you hear me? You don't get to kiss me and tell me I've gotten under your skin and then die in some warehouse. That's not how this story ends. His hand twitched slightly in mine. I need you to wake up, I continued. Because I have things to say to you. Important things. And you're going to listen to every word. His eyes moved beneath closed lids. I'm not going anywhere, I promised. Not until you wake up. So take your time. Heal. But don't you dare leave me here alone. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. The city kept moving, indifferent to private catastrophes. And I sat vigil beside a man who'd become everything in the space of one impossible week, waiting for him to come back to me. Dante woke on the second day. I was dozing in the chair beside his makeshift bed when his hand tightened around mine. My eyes snapped open to find him watching me with fever-bright eyes. Elena. His voice was rough, barely more than a whisper. But I'd never heard anything more beautiful. You're awake. I stood so fast the chair clattered backward. How do you feel? Are you in pain? Should I get the doctor? Marco said. Stop. He tried to smile. Too many questions. You were unconscious for 36 hours. I'm allowed multiple questions. Fair point. He tried to sit up, went white, and collapsed back against the pillows with a bitten-off curse. Don't move, you idiot. I helped him adjust the pillows, trying not to jostle his bandaged side. You were shot. Remember? Doing stupid, heroic things? I remember. His eyes tracked my face. You stayed? Where else would I go? Anywhere. You're safe now. Volkov's in federal custody. His organization is scattered. No one's looking for you anymore. He paused. You're free, Elena. The word should have filled me with relief. Instead, it felt like glass in my chest. Free, I repeated. Marco can set you up with a new apartment, help you get your job back at Vespers, or somewhere else if you prefer. Financial compensation for everything you went through. Whatever you need. He was offering me my life back. My normal, quiet, ordinary life. I should have been grateful. Is that what you want? I asked. For me to leave? Something flickered across his face. It's what's best for you. That's not what I asked. Dante looked away. What I want isn't relevant, isn't it? No. His jaw tightened. You've had a week of trauma. Stockholm Syndrome is real. Give yourself time to process what happened before you make any… Don't. I grabbed his hand. Don't you dare tell me what I'm feeling isn't real. Don't minimize this. This shouldn't exist. But his fingers laced through mine. You should hate me for dragging you into my world. For the danger. For the blood. For saving my life? For protecting me when you had no reason to? For making me feel safer than I've felt in years, despite everything? My voice cracked. Yeah, I really hate you for that, Elena. I watched you nearly die. Tears burned my eyes. I sat in this chair for 36 hours waiting for you to wake up, And all I could think was that I never got to tell you. I stopped, swallowed hard. Tell me what? That I don't want to go back. To my old life. To bartending and going home alone and pretending this week didn't change everything. I met his eyes. I don't want normal anymore, Dante. I want this. Whatever this is. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough, with something that might have been pain or hope. You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me. My life is violence. It's looking over your shoulder. It's enemies and blood and moral compromises. It's knowing the person you love could die any Tuesday because someone with a grudge found them. His free hand cupped my face. It's not romantic, Elena. It's brutal and ugly and exhausting. I know. You think you know. But you haven't lived it. So let me live it. I leaned into his touch. Let me decide what I can handle. What if I can't? His thumb brushed my cheekbone. What if I'm too damaged to be what you need? What if you're not? We stayed like that, his hand on my face, mine gripping his while the warehouse settled around us. Outside, I could hear Marco's men moving around. Normal sounds in an abnormal life. If you stay, Dante said finally, things have to change. I can't have you living in fear. Can't have you vulnerable. What does that mean? It means you learn to protect yourself. Guns, self-defense, situational awareness. It means you understand the business, who our allies are, who our enemies are, where the lines are drawn. His eyes held mine. It means becoming part of this world, not just visiting it. The enormity of what he was offering and what it would cost settled over me. I'd have to give up bartending, I said. Probably. My apartment, my old friends, everything familiar. Yes. And in exchange, I get what? You? This life? The constant danger? You get me. He pulled me closer until our foreheads touched. For whatever that's worth. And I promise you, Elena, I will spend every day making sure it's worth the trade. I should have been terrified. Should have run. Instead, I kissed him. It was gentler than our first kiss. He was injured, fragile, mortal in a way he'd never seemed before. But it held more weight, more promise. It tasted like blood and hope and terrible, wonderful decisions. When we pulled apart, we were both smiling. You're insane, he murmured against my lips. Probably. This is going to be complicated. I don't care. My family won't approve. You're an outsider. Civilian. I'll win them over. You're very confident for someone who just agreed to date a mobster. I laughed. Actually laughed. Is that what we're doing? Dating? Unless you have a better word for it. How about surviving together? His smile turned sad. That works too. Dante healed slowly. The doctor visited daily, checking wounds, changing bandages, muttering about stubborn patients who wouldn't stay in bed. I stayed by his side, learning the rhythms of recovery pills at 6-hour intervals, wound cleaning twice a day, watching for signs of infection. Marco brought us food, brought me clothes that actually fit, brought updates about Volkov's arrest, the federal case building, the dissolution of his criminal empire. You did it, I said one evening as I helped Dante sit up to eat. Took down a major drug operation. We did it. He winced as I adjusted his pillows. You were the catalyst, the reason they exposed themselves. I was bait. You were brave. On the 5th day, Dante stood for the first time, took 3 steps before his legs gave out. I caught him barely, and we both ended up on the floor, laughing despite the pain. Grace, I teased. Shut up. But he was smiling, really smiling. It transformed his face, made him look younger, less haunted. On the 7th day, the doctor cleared him for discharge. Marco arranged a car. We left the warehouse at dusk, heading not to the Astoria townhouse, but somewhere new. Where are we going? I asked. Home, Dante said simply. The apartment was in Tribeca. Modern, expensive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. Bigger than the penthouse, more lived in. Photos on the walls, books on shelves, a piano in the corner. You play? I asked. Used to. Before. He didn't elaborate. Didn't need to. Will you play for me sometime? He looked at me like I'd offered him something precious. Maybe. That night, we lay in his bed, a king-size monstrosity with sheets that felt like clouds and just existed. His arm around me, my head on his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. Elena? Thank you. For not running. I tilted my head to look at him. Thank you for giving me something worth staying for. He kissed my forehead. This is going to be difficult. I know. People will come after us, my enemies. Maybe even some allies who don't approve. I know. You might regret this. I won't. I pressed my palm over his heart. I really won't. He held me tighter. Then welcome to the family, Elena Voss. And despite everything, despite the danger and the blood and the complete destruction of my safe, ordinary life, I'd never felt more like I belonged. Learning to be part of Dante's world was like learning a foreign language through immersion. Confusing, overwhelming, occasionally terrifying. The first lesson came 3 days after we moved into the Tribeca apartment. Marco arrived at 7 a.m. with a woman named Sophia, early 40s, ex-military, with eyes that could cut glass. She's your self-defense instructor, Dante explained. 2 hours every morning until you can handle yourself in a fight. I'm a bartender, I protested. I've never hit anyone in my life. Sophia smiled. It wasn't friendly. By the time I'm done with you, that won't be a problem. She was right. The first week left me covered in bruises. I learned how to break holds, strike vulnerable points, use an attacker's momentum against them. Learned that fear could be a weapon if you channeled it correctly. Dante watched sometimes, leaning against the doorframe of the room we'd converted into a gym. His side was still healing, but he moved better each day, the color returning to his face. You're getting good, he said after I successfully flipped Sophia onto the mat. I'm getting desperate not to be a liability, I corrected. You were never a liability, but I wanted to be more than just someone he protected. I wanted to be someone who could stand beside him. The second lesson was weapons training. A gun range in Queens, run by one of Marco's cousins. The noise alone made my ears ring despite the protection. But I learned to load, aim, fire. Learned to break down a Glock and reassemble it in under a minute. Learned that shooting someone in real life was nothing like the movies, messier, louder, more permanent. I don't know if I could actually use this, I admitted to Dante one night. On a person. I hope you never have to. He took the gun from my hands, secured it in the safe beside the bed. But if it's your life or theirs, I want you to choose yours. Every time. The third lesson was the business itself. Dante took me to meetings, sometimes in restaurants, sometimes in the backs of legitimate businesses, once in a church basement that made me deeply uncomfortable. The Rossi family operates differently than most organizations, he explained as we drove to a sit-down with a union representative. We don't deal in human suffering. No prostitution, no hard drugs, no predatory loans. We control legitimate businesses, with questionable origins, and maintain order in neighborhoods the police have abandoned. That sounds like a justification. It is. He didn't look away from the road. But it's also true. The world isn't black and white, Elena. Sometimes the best option is dark gray. I met his lieutenants. Marco, I already knew. Then came Vincent, late 20s, too pretty for his own good, handled collections. Angela, 40-something, cold as ice, ran their money laundering through a chain of restaurants. Dom, 60, grandfatherly, oversaw dock operations where most of their legitimate import business flowed. They assessed me like I was a business investment, which, I supposed, I was. She doesn't look like much, Vincent said during dinner at one of Angela's restaurants. I'm right here, I said. Good. That means you heard me. He leaned forward. The boss hasn't brought a woman to family business in 15 years. Not since Vincent. Dante's voice was soft but lethal. Careful. Vincent held up his hands. Just saying. People are going to test her. Want to make sure she can handle it. I can handle it, I said. Can you? Angela swirled wine in her glass. Can you watch someone get hurt, really hurt, and not run to the police? Can you keep secrets that could put you in prison? Can you accept that the man you're sleeping with has killed people and will kill again? The table went silent. I looked at Dante. His face was carved from stone, but I saw tension in his shoulders. This mattered to him whether I'd pass this test. I watched armed men shoot through a window trying to kill me, I said, meeting Angela's eyes. I watched Dante nearly bleed out on a warehouse floor. I've spent the last 3 weeks learning to fight, to shoot, to see threats everywhere I look. So yes, Angela, I can handle it. Because the alternative is going back to a life where I'm safe and comfortable and completely alone. And I've learned that safety isn't worth much if you're empty inside. Angela smiled. Actually smiled. She'll do. The rest of the dinner was easier. They asked me about my family, working class, my father a mechanic, my mother a teacher, my education community college. Dropped out after 2 years because I couldn't afford to continue. My life before Dante, quiet, small, forgettable. Good, Marco said. Means you haven't made enemies, haven't left trails. You're a blank slate. Lucky me, I said dryly. Dante's hand found mine under the table. Squeezed gently. 4 weeks after the warehouse, Dante took me to meet his mother. We flew to Naples. First class. Dante barely fit in the seat even with extra legroom. He'd healed well, moved without hesitation now, though I sometimes caught him rubbing his side when he thought I wasn't looking. His mother lived in a villa overlooking the bay. White stone, terracotta roof, gardens that probably required a full-time staff. She was smaller than I expected, barely 5 feet tall, with silver hair and Dante's smoke-colored eyes. Mama, Dante said, kissing both her cheeks. This is Elena. She studied me like she was reading a book. Then, in accented but perfect English, you're the bartender my son almost died for. Yes, ma'am. Call me Isabella. She took my hand. Come, we'll have lunch. You'll tell me how you convinced my stubborn son to let someone into his life after all these years. Lunch lasted 3 hours. Isabella asked questions about my family, my interests, my intentions. She was kind but relentless. I felt like I was being interviewed for a position I hadn't applied for. He's been alone too long, she said as we walked through her gardens afterward. Dante had been called away for a phone call business that couldn't wait. After Lucia died, he closed himself off, became the job, forgot how to be human. I'm sorry about your daughter. So am I. Her eyes were sad. But I'm grateful someone reminded my son that life is worth living, even dangerous lives. That evening, as we prepared to fly back to New York, Dante's mother pulled me aside. Love him gently, she said. He's stronger than anyone I know, but he's also more fragile than he pretends. Don't break him, Elena. I'll do my best. She squeezed my hand. That's all any of us can do. Back in New York, fall turned to winter. The city transformed cold and bright and beautiful. I trained every morning with Sophia, attended meetings with Dante, learned the rhythm of his life, and slowly, I became part of it. Not Elena Voss, former bartender, but Elena Rossi, not technically married, but the name stuck anyway. Dante's woman, his partner. Someone people whispered about in the same breath as his name. Are you happy? Dante asked one night as we lay in bed, the city glittering beyond the windows. I thought about it. About what I'd lost my quiet life, my anonymity, my illusions about safety. About what I'd gained purpose, belonging, him. Yes, I said. Are you? His arm tightened around me. More than I have any right to be. Good. I pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his heart. Then let's keep it that way. Outside, snow began to fall. The first of the season, covering the city in white, making it new again, making everything possible. The threat came in late January. I'd been with Dante for 3 months. 3 months of training, of meetings, of learning to navigate his world. 3 months of falling asleep in his arms and waking up grateful to still be alive. Then Vincent called at 3 a.m., his voice sharp with urgency. We have a problem. Dante was out of bed before I fully woke. He took the call in the living room, speaking rapid Italian. When he came back, his face was stone. What's wrong? I asked. Volkov's nephew. He's out of prison, and he's coming for revenge. My blood went cold. I thought Alexei's organization was finished. Most of it. But family is different. Family doesn't let go. Dante sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. Dmitry Volkov, 28, ruthless, smart. He blames me for his uncle's arrest. Blames you for existing. So what do we do? I do something about it. You stay safe. Dante. No. He looked at me then, and I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. I won't lose you, Elena. Not after everything. Then don't leave me behind. Let me help. This isn't self-defense training. This is war. Then show me how to fight a war. He stared at me for a long moment. Then, okay. The next week was preparation. Marco's men fortified the apartment, bulletproof windows, reinforced doors, security systems that cost more than most people's cars. Dante moved me to a different location every night, hotels, safe houses, once to Vincent's apartment while Vincent stayed elsewhere. I carried a gun everywhere, kept it in my purse, within reach, safety off. Sophia drilled me until I could react without thinking. Someone comes at you from behind, what do? Turn into the attack, strike the throat, run if possible, fight if necessary. Dante coordinated with his lieutenants. They tracked Dimitri's movements. He'd entered the country illegally, had 3 men with him, was armed and patient. Not rushing, planning. He'll wait for the perfect moment, Dante said during one strategy session. Maximum impact. He wants me to suffer before I die, which means he's targeting you first. The words should have terrified me. Instead, they made me angry. So we let him come, I said, on our terms. Dante's eyes sharpened. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I'm tired of hiding. Tired of letting these people dictate my life. I met his gaze. Let's end this. What followed was the most dangerous thing I'd ever done. We set a trap. Leaked my location, a restaurant in Chelsea where I'd supposedly be dining alone. Vincent and Angela spread the rumor through channels they knew would reach Dimitri. He'll send his men first, Marco said during final preparations. Test the waters. If they succeed, he'll finish it himself. And if they don't, then we finish him. The night of the trap, I wore a red dress and too much jewelry. Looked like everything I wasn't soft. Vulnerable, easy prey. Dante and his men positioned themselves throughout the restaurant and surrounding streets. I had a wire taped to my ribs, a gun strapped to my thigh, and a knife in my boot. I sat at a table by the window and waited. They came at 8:47 p.m., 2 men, moving through the crowd like sharks. I recognized the intention in their movement, the way they scanned exits, calculated distances. I stood like I was going to the restroom, walked casually toward the back. They followed. The hallway to the restrooms was empty. I felt them close behind me. 1 more step, 2, then I turned. Everything Sophia taught me came back in a rush. I struck first fast, precise, brutal. Caught the first man in the throat with the heel of my hand. He went down choking. The second lunged. I dodged, pulled the gun from my thigh, and put 2 rounds in his chest before I could think about it. The noise was deafening. People screamed. And then Dante was there, appearing from somewhere, his own gun drawn, his face savage. Elena, are you hurt? I looked at my hands. They were shaking. There was blood, not mine. I shot him, I whispered. I actually shot him. I know. Dante pulled me against his chest. I know, but you're alive. That's all that matters. Marco's men cleaned the scene with practiced efficiency. The restaurant evacuated. Police would arrive, but they'd find nothing. No bodies, no evidence, just another night in New York. We left through the back. Dante kept me close, his hand on my back, his body between me and potential threats. Dimitri knows now, Marco said as we reached the car. Knows his men are dead. He'll come himself. Good, Dante said. Let him. Dimitri came 2 nights later, not with an ambush, not with violence. He called. Dante answered on speaker. Volkov. Rossi. Dimitri's voice was young, educated, cold. You've made this personal. You made it personal when you came after what's mine. The girl? She's nothing. Collateral damage. I spoke before Dante could. I have a name, and I'm not yours to dismiss. Silence on the other end. Then laughter. She has fire. I can see why you keep her. What do you want? Dante's voice was lethal. A trade. You for her. You come alone, unarmed, to the location I specify. I kill you. She walks away. Your family stays intact. Everyone else lives. No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. Not your decision, Dimitri said. You're just the bait. Dante's jaw worked. When and where? Dante. No. He covered the phone. Trust me. Tomorrow, Dimitri said. The Red Hook warehouse where you destroyed my uncle's shipment. Midnight. Poetic, don't you think? I'll be there. Alone, Rossi. I have eyes everywhere. If I see anyone else, she dies first. The line went dead. I grabbed Dante's arm. You're not doing this. It's suicide. It's the only way to end it. Then I'm coming with you. Elena. No. We're in this together, remember? You don't get to sacrifice yourself and expect me to just accept it. Tears burned my eyes. I won't lose you. Not like this. He pulled me into his arms. Held me so tight I could barely breathe. I have a plan, he murmured against my hair. But you have to trust me. Completely. Midnight found us at the Red Hook warehouse. The same place Dante had nearly died 3 months ago. The symmetry was cruel. We went in together, Dante, unarmed as promised. Me with weapons hidden everywhere. Marco and the others were positioned nearby, but far enough that Dimitri's watchers wouldn't spot them. Dimitri waited in the center of the warehouse. Young, handsome in a sharp-edged way, flanked by 2 armed men. "You brought her," he said. "How romantic," she insisted. Dante kept me slightly behind him. "Let's finish this, Volkov." "Gladly." Dmitri raised his gun. "Any last words?" "Yes." Dante smiled. "Now, Elena." I moved, dropped and rolled as Dante did the same. The shots Dmitri fired went wide, and then the warehouse exploded with movement, Marco's men pouring in from every entrance, weapons drawn, trapping Dmitri and his men in a perfect crossfire. It was over in seconds. Dmitri on his knees, his men disarmed, surrounded by enough firepower to level the building. Dante stood, brushed dust from his jacket, walked up to Dmitri with predatory grace. "You thought I'd come alone?" He crouched to Dmitri's level. "I'm not honorable, Volkov. I'm smart. And I never make the same mistake twice." "You'll regret this," Dmitri spat. "My family. Your family is dead or in prison. You were the last one, and now you're done." Dante stood, nodded to Marco. "Take him to the Italians. They have questions about their missing shipments." "And the Italians? Well, they're not as gentle as we are." Dmitri's face went white. As Marco's men dragged him away, Dante turned to me. "You okay?" I was shaking. Adrenaline dump, probably. But I was alive. We were both alive. "I'm okay." I walked into his arms. "Is it really over?" "It's really over." He kissed the top of my head. "No more Volkovs. No more threats. Just us." "Just us," I echoed. We left the warehouse as dawn broke over the East River. The city was waking up commuters and coffee shops and normal people living normal lives. We weren't normal. Probably never would be. But as Dante's hand found mine, fingers lacing together, I realized I wouldn't have it any other way. "Elena?" he said as we reached the car. "Yeah? I love you. Probably have for a while. Just thought you should know." My heart did something complicated. "I love you too, even though you're impossible and dangerous and completely insane. Especially because of that," he corrected. I laughed. "Especially because of that." We drove back to Tribeca as the city turned gold with morning light. Back to the apartment that had become home. Back to a life I'd never imagined but couldn't imagine leaving. Because safety was an illusion, normal was boring, and love, real love, was worth every dangerous, beautiful, terrifying moment.